Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham Dhamman Sangham Saranang Gacchami. So I've been doing a little series of talks inspired by background stories that start with pandemics. And so this is the third pandemic talk on a Saturday. And this is the woman who gave a crust of rice. And overall, this story is an interesting teaching on karma. And that's what we'll be going into based on this story. So this is out of the Vimanavatu book. It's a small book in the miscellaneous collection of the Pali Canon, and it's it's the book of the mansions. There's a companion book, the Pettavatu, which is a book of ghost stories. Well, this is a book of angel stories. And it's about as well respected in scholarly circles as a book of ghost stories and a book of angel stories would be expected to be. Not highly rated, but good stuff. I love these old stories. So this is in the this number 180, starting with verse number 185. It's again in the Vimanavantu 1.3. And the name of it is the Achamada Yikamivana Vatu. So the king of the angels approached Venerable Mahakassapa, and he asked a question about what had happened to a certain woman on her death. The background of the story is, now the commentary that gives the background has not been translated into English, and my ability with Pali is basically the equivalent of a kindergartner's grasp of English. So I did my best with understanding it, but as I understand it, this woman had belonged to a great family, a family of wealth and position, authority, and a pandemic had swept through. And this was one of the pandemics referred to as a Aivataka Rogo epidemic. So Ahi is snake, Vata is breath, and Rogo is illness. So this is a snake blast illness or snake breath illness disease. Some have translated that as malaria. There was a Hindu source I found online that called it bubonic plague, but it's something contagious and deadly. Her whole family had died. This one woman's family died. And so then she's in the most dire of situations. It's a culture in which family is everything, especially for a woman. So she, in her old age, she was, this doesn't say old, but I thought it was old. Anyway, she ends up, she's very poor. She's actually quite destitute. And she's living in somebody else's attic. And she had just this little measly bit of food to offer. And out of the very little that she had to give, she used to give to monks, including giving to Mahakassapa, who was referred to by the Buddha as the father of the Sangha. He's one of the greatest of all the monks. So Saka, after she has passed away, Saka went to Mahamogalana and said, okay, what happened to her? You know, here she is the only survivor of a great family from a pandemic. And she has given out of the tiny bit that she had on a regular basis in great faith. So what was the result of that? So here's the poetry of it. Well, sort of in poetic form. The woman poor and destitute, dwelling in the attic belonging to others, offered out of devotion overcooked rice crust with her own hands to those in their rounds for alms food in silence. On discarding the human body after her death, to what existence was she destined? So asked the king of the Devas. That would have been Saka. So Mahamogalana repeats this question. The woman poor and destitute, dwelling in the attic belonging to others, offered out of devotion overcooked rice crust with her own hands to those in their rounds for alms food in silence. On discarding the human body after her release from human life, she attained happiness as a Devi, a great angel, in Nimanarati, a very high God realm, the abode of powerful celestial beings, and enjoyed life there as the giver of overcooked rice crust. So as one who had given overcooked rice crust, she enjoyed life there. So replied Mahakassapa. It's not clear to me who's talking after this, whether it's Mahakassapa or the great angel Saka, the god Saka. The verses continue. Marvelous is the almsgiving of the poor and destitute woman who has faith firmly established in Mahakassapa. The giving away of alms food obtained from others is effectively accomplished. So in contrast, a woman possessing physical charms and highly pleasing may become queen of emperor of the world, but her status as the queen can in no way be equated with the result that that poor woman had gotten, can in no way be equated with 1/16 of the benefits derived from the offering of the overcooked rice crust, the value of 100,000 weight of Nikha gold, of 100,000 houses, of 100,000 horse-drawn chariots, and of 100,000 maidens adorned with ruby earrings, cannot equal that of the giving away of overcooked rice crust of that destitute woman. The value of 100 Matanga elephants, each a native of Himavanta, with slightly curved tusks, valiant in battle, caparisoned in gold and adorned with gold ornaments, cannot equal that of the giving away of overcooked rice crust of that destitute woman. In this world, one may rule over the 4 islands. I guess it would have been 4 continents. Translation's a little sketchy. One may rule over the 4 lands. His wealth as a universal monarch is not comparable in value to the benefits derived by the destitute woman from the offering of overcooked rice crust. What? Well, you want to just go gather some overcooked rice crust and find someone you have faith in and offer it? Is it overcooked rice crust per se, or is there something else going on? I'm going to unmute you. So there we go. Someone acting on faith out of their poverty, giving what they can from their place of poverty, has given a great gift. And then, of course, the recipient is also, a powerful consideration in Buddhism, not so much in Christianity, so to the extent I'm familiar with Christianity. In Christianity, the neediness of the recipient is a very strong consideration, but in Buddhism, the purity of the recipient is a very strong consideration. So when one has given to people who have reduced greed, hatred, and a delusion, it's a very extraordinary thing. There are multiple aspects that make a gift more powerful. One being the purity of the recipient, and another being the attitude or the intention with which you give, whether your intention is giving to humiliate, giving to just because it's a family tradition, or giving to look good. giving to out of compassion, giving because it's just beautiful in your own heart when you give. So there's a kind of a range of levels of power of giving. The most powerful giving is the latter one, when you're just giving because it's an adornment of the mind. That's how the translation gives it. So I understand that to mean that you see it beautify your own heart. It's my take on what that means. And then the exact attitude with which you give also counts. So there's your motivation that I already mentioned, but your attitude. There's the attitude in the preparation, your attitude in your giving, and the attitude in thinking about it afterwards. If one gives with joy, that is the most powerful. Preparing the gift with joy, giving the gift with joy, and remembering it again and again and again with joy. So again, this is very different from Western tradition, that one hand should not know what the other is doing, right? Very different idea there. This is know what you did and rejoice in it again and again and again. So this is apparently something that this woman had done with great faith in Mahakassapa, who was an arahant. She had, probably with a lot of joy, given out of her scarcity. And with that, she ended up in this very high God realm. Now, I want to segue from this into talking a little bit more about karma, but do we have any more thoughts about this story, starting with the pandemic?
I guess I was thinking about about the giving. You know, sometimes when you give, you have a right intention. Then after that, so throughout the process of giving, or even after you give, sometimes you might feel like, well, I don't want to give it to you because you are okay. I want to give it to that person, and then your mind was like, oh my God. Then I guess what I'm trying to say is like, is it okay that we just, when we give, we'll give it out pure intentions and, you know, all the perfect, but after that, every now and then, the doubts, feelings come up and up, you know, come and go. So is it like meditation? We're just aware of it, say like, it's okay, whatever your feeling is of that giving, even if you give it because your ego is fine, acknowledge it, and then, but you must let it go.
I'm hearing more than one question in that.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sorry, I just lost the first part of my thought. That migraine hit. Migraine cloudiness hit. Yes, there was an occasion where a king confronted the Buddha because the king had heard that the Buddha had said give only to his monks, and the king thought that was a really kind of low thing to do. The Buddha corrected him, saying, no, I have been misquoted on this. I've been misrepresented. The Buddha said that I teach that even giving the crumbs, you know, into a pond, thinking, let this be for the little creatures, is of great benefit back to oneself. But the Buddha said that he teaches that you should give wherever you have faith. And the king then asked a further question about giving, and then the Buddha said, no, wait, this is a whole different thing. There's the giving that's most powerful in its impact, and then there's the giving where you have faith. You should give wherever you have faith, but the fact is that there are different levels of the impact back to you of the giving. So if I recall exactly correctly, he went on to say that this is in Middle Link Discourses. I don't know if any of you have read it recently. So he goes on to rate the relative impactfulness of giving to various beings. So starting with those little beings in a pond, that giving even to them would come back, what is it, 100-fold, 1,000-fold, something like that. Giving to an animal would be something like 1,000-fold more than that of power of giving. But giving to a human being would be incalculably more powerful than giving to an animal. But giving to a human being who is temporarily purified, as in from meditation, would be incalculably more powerful than giving to a regular person. But giving to someone who's in a stage of enlightenment, first stage of enlightenment, incalculably more powerful than giving to someone who's simply temporarily purified. But giving to someone in the second stage of enlightenment is incalculably more powerful than giving to someone in the first stage. Actually, he goes into the half stages, on the path and fruit of each stage. But I'll just keep it more simple. Giving to someone in the third stage of enlightenment is incalculably more powerful than giving to someone in the second stage. And someone who's fully enlightened at the fourth and final stage of enlightenment is incalculably more powerful than giving to someone at the third stage of enlightenment. However, giving to the Sangha is with the male and female Sangha together with the Buddha, living Buddha there, is the very most powerful kind of giving. And if you don't have a living Buddha, giving to the male and female Sanghas together is the next most powerful. And then here we get our little gender stuff. Giving to the male Sangha is most powerful after that. Giving to the female Sangha is most powerful after that. It's ancient India. We get over it. Then giving to like a committee, not a whole Sangha. You have to have 4 to have a quorum for a Sangha. So not giving to 4, but a smaller number of bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, not assigned to individuals, but representing the Sangha, is more powerful. Just giving to the male Sangha, just giving to the female representatives, and then finally giving to male monk or female monk. But even then, if you give to the individual, if you have in your heart that it's for the whole Sangha, then that, according to Theravada tradition, covers giving to all of the Sangha of the 10 directions of all time. So even if you're giving to a monk who is completely lacking any kind of virtues whatsoever, but in your mind you're giving to the Sangha, that's still more powerful than giving to any individual. In the context of that talk was someone trying to give a gift to the Buddha himself, and he had said, no, don't give it to me, give it to the whole Sangha. So he's implying that giving to even a low down immoral monk, if you have the whole Sangha in mind, is more powerful than giving to a Buddha. So that's a bit hard to swallow, but that's the way it's written out in the Pali Canon version. I'm told that the Chinese version misses that bit. It might have been added on, or it might have been left off. I don't know. I don't know who messed with it. But that particular discourse was one of the motivators in the back of my mind when I wanted to become ordained, because if having a bhikkhuni in front of you was that powerful, I wanted to help people get extraordinary merits. So that was definitely in the back of my mind in wanting to ordain. So who you should give to is one thing. To whom it is most powerful the giving, that is another thing. Now, the stories that we have, sorry, my nose just started itching for no reason. And then this Kleenex is scented, so now it's making my nose itch more. Sorry. And a catch-22 here. Where we have in the commentary stories of people having given and then regretting it, the consequences are not that good, actually. So you might want to think about that. Giving and then saying, oh, darn it, I shouldn't have given to that person. Then they get all those merits, but they're not able to kind of fully sustain them because of that doubt interfering. So for what it's worth, out of the tradition, I would say it's not such a great move. If you give, let it go. You gave, you did it, rejoice in it. There might have been something a little more skillful that you could have done. Okay, well, let it go. Learn from it, let it go. But rejoice in what you haven't done. That is my advice, because that rejoicing is extraordinarily powerful. You're really bringing home the power of the giving.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on this story before I move on to the topic more in general? I'm going to mute you all again, just against any background noises. Again, you can unmute yourself if you need to. So I saw a question arise on an online Buddhist discussion group about certain extremes that you hear, you see again and again in the scriptures. You know, really kind of outrageous comments like, you know, you do this one thing and you end up in a heaven world, like this woman's example. Or you gossip and you end up in hell. It's just really extreme kind of things. For a monk or nun to eat their alms food non-attentively and just enjoying it should take them to hell. This is there's some draconian sounding stuff in the scripture, real fire and brimstone about the consequences. And I want to address that, how this can be so extreme. And here's a metaphor I came up with to explain how it can be described in such extreme terms and be accurate and seemingly contradictory, but not. And that is that with any example of a kind of giving, what is being described is the nature of the result, not necessarily what the result will be, but the direction, the nature. So the metaphor I have for it is if you are at the Atlanta train station and you get on a train that says New York City on the front, will you go to New York City or not? Trick question. Oh, now I've muted you. Unmute. If you get on a train that says New York City on the front, will you end up in New York City?
Depends on where you get off.
Yay! Good answer, Meredith.
Okay.
Depends on how far you go.
Right.
But what you have in, so a lot of these trains, a lot of these metro systems, they will name the line with the neighborhood or little town that's at the end of the line. But that doesn't mean just because you get on that train that you're going to go all the way down to that other location. It's just the name of the train. It is the nature of the direction of the train. All else being equal, that is, if there are no intervening forces, then that is where you would go. If you do not get off that train, yes, you will end up at that destination. But there are many reasons that you might get off that train. So so when we say something like gossip takes you to hell, it means that the direction of gossip is downward. And so if you have no upward leaning good karma, nothing to hold you up, nothing to intervene, if you have only negative karma, then that would ripen in that way, taking you all the way on down, because there's nothing to stop it. And if you have only good karma, great good karma, small good karma, you have a lot of strong and weak good karma and not really heavy bad karma, and you give a gift to someone like Mahakassapa with faith in him, or a gift to, according to Theravada tradition, any monastic with faith in the whole Sangha, strong faith, and assuming that you're doing it with joy and with good intentions, high intentions, then there is the potential that it could take you all the way to a very high state. It could be a strong basis for future enlightenment. It could be a strong basis for future beautiful rebirth. But it just does depend, because other things might intervene. But there is that possibility. You have sown a seed that is in that nature. Another metaphor that came to my mind is that if you're in a small motorboat on a lake and you're motoring along, you're going along, and there's water that's going in waves off of the right side. There are words for this in nautical language and I don't remember them. Anyone know what's starboard and what's the other one?
Port,
Okay?
port, and the weight.
Starboard. Okay, so which is port? Anyone know? Someone's going to see this thing and think, oh, how all these people are silly. Nobody knows these things. All right. We'll just stick with left and right. So the waves, there are waves that go this way, waves that go that way, you know, off of out of the movement of the boat. Now, if someone were to say to you, well, that particular wave right there, that one, when's it going to hit shore and how hard? How hard, how high, and when will it hit the shore? So well, how can I possibly know that? There may be other beings moving around in the water. There may be waves affecting the water. There may be a flow towards a dam or toward downstream or something that will affect, or an undertow under a dam, you know, that may be affecting the movement of the waves. There may be other boats that are flowing around or other created by the same boat going around in figure eights or circles. So how is it going to, and some land is jutting out and some land is further away. And calculating one particular wave, how it's going to hit the shore, even whether it hits the shore in any measurable way, it's impossible. At least for us ordinary folk, it's impossible. Virtually impossible. There are few things that are knowable. Some very heavy karmas, and I can go into that in a moment. But what you do know is that this one went to the left, and this one went to the right. That's what you can know. We know that some actions are unwholesome. We know that some actions are wholesome. We can follow them to some extent. Sometimes they're very strong, and they hit the wave is strong, and it hits the land kind of quickly. The land is nearby, and it hits it, and we say, ah, you know, that was that particular wave. I saw that. It's kind of fun when you see instant karma. Especially somebody else's sometimes, but that schadenfreude is another topic, and it's not good karma. Anyway, so you know the nature of the direction, but the exact way it hits, you don't know. Not normally. Now, an exception for that, of course, would be a Buddha, but another exception would be that there's something called heavy karma, and heavy karma can be heavy good. And it can be heavy bad. A bad heavy karma could take you straight to hell. Like a Monopoly game, go straight to jail card. Well, there's a straight to hell card in life. Does anyone know what the straight to hell cards are? Unmute people.
Illusion, greed, hatred.
Direct to hell card. Fortunately, we don't all go straight to hell just because we have those traits.
Killing a Buddha.
Killing you can't kill a Buddha, but injuring a Buddha, yes. What else? What is the straight to hell card? I mean, no other wave is going to block this. This is boom, straight to hell. When
Killing?
From this life, you know, there was actually a person in the day of the Buddha who went on a serial killing spree and killed around 1,000 people, and later got converted by the Buddha and became fully enlightened, one of the greatest of all arahants. Killing is not necessarily one of the actions that definitely takes you to hell, but there is a kind of killing that would. What would that be? Anyone?
He knows already.
Yeah.
The mother and the father.
Yes. Matricide and parricide are straight tickets to hell. And then there's one other that's not family relation necessarily. What would that be?
Infanticide?
No, but good guess. The killing of an arahant. You cannot kill a Buddha, according to the Buddha. You could wound him at most. But it is possible to kill a fully enlightened one, and it's a really bad idea. Don't do it. It's better not to kill anyone, but if you kill an enlightened one, you really blew it in this life. You're not going anywhere good.
Well, what if I gave Arahant COVID because I was unaware I had COVID?
You'd be very innocent. You'd be very, very innocent. And in Buddhism, we're very clear about karma. Karma was not as clearly understood by other religions in the day of the Buddha. And there was a religion that was, very active, kind of in competition with Buddhism, sort of another fringe, non-majority religion that had ascetic practices and, good virtue, but and lived very similarly. But they had kind of like a strict liability idea of karma. Do you know what strict liability is in law? I had a little, I went to law school, so certain words make sense to me, but I don't know if they're normal words. Strict liability is like, you park in a place that's not permitted and you get a ticket whether you knew it or not. You run a red light and you get a ticket whether you knew it or not, right? So the Jains had strict liability on things like killing insects. You killed them, you got the bad karma for it. But in Buddhism, it's much more nuanced. You have to know there's a being there. You have to plan to kill it. You have to want to kill it. So your foot goes down on an insect and you say, what was that crunch? Oops. Oh no, that was not killing. So if you were to get a dread disease and accidentally give it to someone, no matter what a great being they were, that is not a karma killing. There might have been unmindfulness, there might have been heedlessness, there might have been carelessness, there might have been breaking of laws, there might have been arrogance, there might have been some things that are not great karma. But then again, it could have been you just wanted to, bandage an injury to the great being, or give them food and you accidentally breathed in their face. You're completely innocent. There's no bad karma. Even the guy who gave the meal that killed the Buddha did not get half bad karma out of that. He gave the Buddha a dish of food that the Buddha ate, knowing it was going to kill him. He had, according to Theravada tradition, or I guess the other schools have this story too. No, but in the sutta that chronicles the last days of the Buddha, there was a Chunda, the goldsmith or blacksmith. He had done a huge meal for the Buddha and the monks, and the Buddha had predicted his imminent demise already, according to our tradition. But he ate this meal. He ate that dish, and when it had been served to him, he told the host to bury the rest of the food because no one but a Buddha could possibly digest that particular dish. Don't even let animals eat it. So something was wrong with that food. And so that was done, and the Buddha ate it, but he didn't digest it. He actually got deathly ill and passed away very soon after. And as he was lying there about to die, about to pass into Parinibbana, we don't really say die, we say Parinibbana, because there's no more birth and death after this for an enlightened being. As he was about to go, he told Ananda to send a message to Chunda to allay Chunda's remorse, saying that there are two meals that are the most powerful to give in this world, and one is the meal given on the eve of his enlightenment, and the other is the meal given just before he passes away. So that would be the most, that he was saying that Chunda was going to get the most powerful good karma of giving a meal ever. So then all the people wouldn't be, despising Chunda, and he wouldn't be filled with distress and remorse that his meal killed the Blessed One. That would be a hard thing to live with, wouldn't it? So Chunda was uplifted by that news that he actually had done something that had given him a beautiful karma. So maybe if you accidentally gave COVID to a fully enlightened one, you would have a beautiful karma. But doing it on purpose would be a whole different ballpark. Just like, if you ran down an animal or a person in your car accidentally versus on purpose, the laws that we have are sensitive to those nuances. It's not on purpose. We don't hold you responsible. We want to comfort you if you did something like that, not knowing. What do you suppose would be the heavy karmas that are good heavy karmas? What would that be a ticket to?
Saving a life?
That's certainly a good karma, but it could still be interfered with by some other, some other bad karma. Definitely that's a good wave. Good wave. Yay, wave. That's a good one. But it's not that straight ticket. So first, what would be the destination that the straight ticket would be to?
Nibbana.
Nibbana or a stage of enlightenment?
Oh, a stream.
Yes, a stream entry or non-returner or fourth stage arahant. So it might be to any one of those. What's that?
I guess it would depend on what stage you were in as to how much higher you would go. The next stage depends on where you are.
So what it would be, it'd be some profound insight into reality that would cause delusion to drop away permanently. The stages of enlightenment are reckoned in terms of what we call 10 fetters. So there are 10 bindings that maintain rebirth again and again and again for all sentient beings. All sentient beings have all 10 unless they've attained some stage of enlightenment. At the first stage of enlightenment happens when the first 3 are destroyed. The second stage of enlightenment happens when the next 2 are weakened. Third stage happens when those are severed, and fourth stage are 5 subtle fetters that are broken through. So some kind of profound insight into impermanence, into the nature of suffering, into the non-self nature of the whole mind-body existence, some great insight into the Four Noble Truths, into the taints, into what is wholesome and unwholesome, into nutriment. These are into the functioning of dependent origination. Some profound insight. They break through any number of these fetters. So it might be the first 3. It might be the next group. It might be the third group. It might be all of them really fast. That is a heavy good karma, really heavy good karma. You can't undo that. It's such a heavy good karma, you cannot undo that removal of the veils of delusion, that breaking of fetters. The first 3 fetters, the ones that the destruction of which mean first stage of enlightenment, are what we call personality belief, personality view, belief that there's an eternal, unchanging core of me, hanging around out there, perhaps taking life after life, or being eternal, or being destroyed, or whatever you see it, but we're not being destroyed, but that there's a current of a kernel of self that goes through this life, as opposed to cause and effect rolling on. So that's Sakaya Ditti, personality view. The second one is the belief that some kind of outer behavior is going to give you a permanent salvation. 100,000 vows, circumambulating a certain mountain, professing faith in a certain deity. There's something you can do that will give you enlightenment, that will give you perfect freedom, something. But someone at the first stage of enlightenment has come to understand that the only way to enlightenment is by perfecting your mind, by overcoming greed, hatred, delusion, seeing truth. There's nobody's robe that you can hang on to and get somewhere in enlightenment. There's no 100,000 bows, million bows might give you good muscles and good concentration and patience, but it's not going to give you any kind of enlightening experience in itself. So that's belief in rules and rituals, that some kind of rules and rituals or ritualistic behavior is going to do it. It's going to do enlightenment. And third is doubt. And this is not the day-to-day doubt that keeps you safe or causes arguments. This is doubt about whether there's a Buddha, whether there are or teachings of a Buddha, whether there are saintly people that follow the teachings of the Buddha, and whether it's efficacious for nowadays too. So doubt about Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, that is erased. All three of them. Some say that they can be done one by one. Some say it has to be all three all at once. I actually don't know. But when those three are completely broken, when one is on the path to breaking them, that is the stream entry path, Magga. When they are broken, Bahala, fruition. We've completed the first stage of enlightenment, and you cannot fall back. You cannot unsee what you have seen with wisdom. And the second stage of enlightenment is the weakening, very significant weakening of greed and ill will, or you could say greed and hate. Third stage of enlightenment is when all material greed and all hate are vanquished, completely severed, done. You can't have any more irritation. Can you imagine it? Free of irritation? Free of the burden of wanting anything? Sometimes I sit around going, what would that be? One of my teachers said to me, it's so freeing. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh my, if only I were to see what you see, teacher. This teacher said, it's like this weight off of your shoulders. Like, really? Wow. So that leaves 5 very, very subtle fetters that keep the non-returner from being fully enlightened. And that is very subtle desire to exist in a fine material form, like an angelic being. Subtle desire to exist in immaterial existence. So it's like, just let me be something, somewhere, somehow. Just let me be like an angel, like a god. I don't need to go back to like the coarse earthly kind of experience, but just wanting to be. Conceit. It's the moment, the third one is this moment-to-moment conviction, or no, moment-to-moment experience of I am. Now at the first stage, one has overcome the delusion, the belief system that there is a core of I am. But here the actual experiential quality is what is overcome. Very, very, very subtle. And then that leaves subtle restlessness and subtle ignorance. Those 5 vanquished make an arahant. So heavy, good karma would be a good karma that takes a person, you know, causes the breaking through of any of those sets of fetters. No turning back. I have a rhetorical question for you. What's more powerful? Heavy good karma or heavy bad karma?
Which one more powerful? Good karma?
Yeah. And why is that? There's a very particular answer I'm looking for. Why is that?
Good karma is more powerful. I guess maybe good karma gives you the going towards the right direction.
Well, there is that.
Yeah.
But someone who's at the first stage of enlightenment, these stages of enlightenment are also reckoned in terms of how many and what kind of rebirth you might have.
Mm-hmm.
If you're at the first stage of enlightenment, you could be reborn in this realm, this realm, 7 times at most. Scripture, quoting the Buddha, says they will not take an 8th existence. Second stage of enlightenment, they can come back to this realm one time max. But whatever stickiness of mind might cause us to grab up a gross body like we have, it just isn't there. So one time at most, and then they're like, okay, I'm done here. The mind is not grasping enough, not sticky enough to go through another life on this plane. Third stage of existence is called the non-returner. There can be rebirth, but not on this plane. My understanding, it would be one time at max, but I don't remember seeing that spelled out somewhere. But it would never be at this plane. It would be in a heaven realm. There's a particular heaven realm that the non-returners would be reborn in. And then enlightened one, no birth of any sort whatsoever. The whole mechanism that could ever cause you to have the suffering, the grasping, the restless heart that could ever cause a birth again, it's just finished, it's done, uprooted. There's nothing to it anymore that could ever cause that to happen again. The healing is complete. So that's a little talk I wanted to give you about the nature of the direction of karma. When you come across scripture that gives these really draconian sentences, like, you know, if you steal something, you go to hell, or something like that. Now you understand that's the name on the front of the train. But hopefully you'll have you won't do the bad thing. But even if you did, you'll have so much other beautiful karma, good karma, that it will be nothing to you. There's another metaphor about how karma weighs out against other karma. And it's like, let's say that a person had to drink a container with a certain amount of salt. So you have to drink down salt, an amount of salt that's diluted by a quantity of water. So this is your bad karma. You're going to get it. You can't get away from it. You're going to have to get this down somehow. And somebody with a very low quality of other karma would have only a little bit of water to mix it with. And then the water is salty like ocean water. And it's disgusting. And you choke on it. It's horrible. But somebody with more good karma would have a much larger container to dilute that salt. So it wouldn't be quite so bad. But there's some people whose good karma is like a whole reservoir. And you put the salt in that, and it's negligible. It's not going to hit. So if you have some really serious evil karma, staring you in the face from your past, don't worry, because you're doing some really good karma. Meditation is some very powerful good karma. Loving kindness is extraordinarily powerful good karma. So just keep, doing the next right thing and doing, what is beautiful and leads towards awakening, actions and mental trainings that have, nibbana on the front of the train. just keep doing beautiful actions, using your best judgment, teaching yourself, studying yourself, learning about your foibles and your strengths, and adjusting your activities accordingly, so that you're on that nibbana train more and more. And don't let yourself worry about the negative karmas. Focusing on them just kind of enhances the badness of them. It makes it stronger. And when you kind of obsess with it, you can kind of block away the effect of your good karma. So just know that you did something that wasn't so great. Look for whatever lessons you can, do any amends that would be suitable, and then let it go. Just let it go. Remorse is not a wholesome state. Regret is not a wholesome state. Guilt is not a wholesome state. These are unwholesome states. Learn what you can and let it go. Let it go. Understand that everybody's been horrible to everybody, and everybody's been good to everybody. We're a limited number of beings, even though we're a huge number. We're a limited number. We've been bouncing off each other for infinite amount of time, pretty much infinite amount of time. According to the Buddha, we've all been each other's mothers and brothers and sisters and fathers and grandfathers and everything to each other. Everything. So we've all been enemies, we've all been friends, we've all been lovers, we've all been loved ones, we've all been each other's babies and took good care or bad care or whatever. Um, uh, yeah, so just don't hold, the recent stuff from this life, as being so very important. Just do what you can, focus on what's beautiful, and carry on. Okay, so that is my talk for you today.